Hello everyone. Today I'm going to do a video on how I, build my BD7 gear differential. Now there's, people on the internet that have many different ways of building a gear differential, put green slime here, put this here, use the silicone oil here. But I'm just going to tell you how I build my differential, and I think it might be of help to some people that are just building their differential, their gear differential for the first time. So I'm just going to show you what tools I use to build my gear differential. First and foremost, I have a set of calipers. Now, these aren't necessarily vital, but it's always good to have in your toolbox for many reasons. Some sandpaper, 320 grit. This guy here. 180 grit. This guy here, as you can see, there's probably figured out what I'm going to do. And I use two types of greases, and then I use, whatever choice of gear diff oil you want. There's Mugen, there's Yokomo's own, whichever you use. You can use the kit oil, and that will work just as well. All right. So say that the gear differential is all taken apart. You have your big gears, which are on the ends here, and then you have your small gears that are working together in the middle. Now, what I do, especially if it's a brand new differential, is I measure the widths of each gear. So I take the gear and I just measure the distance of each and every one. And what I do is I find out which one has the smallest size, the smallest thickness. And what I do is I take that gear and I give that a good sanding. Maybe sand off maybe maybe, how many millimeters would I say? Maybe point 0.2 or 0.3 of a millimeter. Not a lot. So example, like if I have 5 millimeter thickness of my smallest gear, I might take that down to, maybe 4.8, for example. And I make sure that all the other gears have been rough sanded down to that dimension. All right. And then after I've done that, I take my fine grit and I take off 0.1 of a millimeter. So it'll be down to 4.7. And I make sure, that all those gears are down to 4.7 or close to it. If it's 4.69, that's okay. I doubt it will make a big difference. All right. So I've done that. I've got all those little gears sanded down perfect. Put them off to the side. I'll clean them eventually. Then I take the big crown gears and I do the same. I do like a rough sand. Figure out which one is big one, small one. Rough sand the small one down to whatever size. Let's say the gear's a little thicker. Let's say it's a 5.6. I rough sand it down to 5.5, and I do the same with both gears. Then I go ahead and do like my polishing sand, and that brings it down to 5.4. So what I do is I clean and wash all the gears with brake clean, make sure everything's nice and done. And then what I do is I go ahead and take my drill bit. Where did that drill bit go? I had a 3 millimeter drill bit kicking around here. It looks like I've lost it. Okay, where did that go? Here we go. So I got this drill bit here. Now, you don't necessarily have to use the drill bit, but it's good to determine whether or not you want to determine to make sure that the small gears that go on the shaft, both shafts, you want to make sure that they're spinning freely. My last differential that I built, the small gears were really binding on the shaft itself. So I thought, well, the shaft itself is 3 millimeters. I have a 3 millimeter drill. I might as well just kind of clean out any excess material that might be causing the gear itself to bind on the shaft. So I just took the drill, just a quick little spin here and there, both sides, like so. and lo and behold, the gears spun nicely on the shaft, and that was that. So I made sure that the small gears were spinning freely on the shaft for both axles, okay, or both cross shafts. And then that's that. That's it with the gears. Make sure that they're clean and ready to go. And then next, you have your output shafts. I use this grease here. This is by TKO Racing, and it's a nice thin film which you want to lubricate the input portion of the shaft here. And you just want to make sure it's all nice and smooth. And you can also do the same with the orange O-rings. Now, with the BD7 2014 series, the differentials come with like the Kyosho red P5 differential rings. The older differential rings were black and they didn't really do so well. It caused quite a bit of leaking. And so what you do is you put some of that grease on that O-ring as well, and do the same for both sides. And then what I do is I take this green slime, and just as I'm about to place the washer that I put on top of the O-ring, I put some green slime on the one side of the washer, so it kind of acts as a bit of a sealant. I push that washer down onto that O-ring, and that will create a bit of a seal. This stuff will create a bit of a seal. And then what will happen is I will go ahead and put the cross pin, put the gear on, and that's finished on that one side. And then you'll have your gasket side. Before I add the oil itself, I will put the green slime on the same washer, put the spacer and then the crown gear on. And then that side's done. And then I put this on the gasket that will ultimately seal off any oil from coming through and getting onto the belt. All right, so you don't want to be too crazy with the green slime, but you want to evenly disperse or evenly spread out the green slime onto the gasket. All right, so it adds a nice seal. Now, next thing I do is I take a digital scale. And what I do with the digital scale is, first, I can either leave the differential empty like so. Obviously, the 1/2 will be off. Oh, there we go. It's not going well. So this half will obviously be off because there's no oil in it. So just imagine that this differential is empty. What I'll do is I'll turn the scale on. It reads 0, like so. All right. And so I want to do this. So what I can do is when I fill the differential, I can see the weight increasing. So as I'm putting the oil into the differential, I can see a value appear here. And so for next time when I build the differential, I've already jotted down, okay, 3,000 weight, weighs 2.1 grams. All right, so next time I do a rebuild and I use the same oil, I can just simply quickly fill this up to 2.1 grams. All right, so when that's all done, I'll get my differential all ready to go, snap everything in place. I'll just push everything down. And before I put the screws in, I'll maybe put one screw here and one screw here, start to tighten it down. I'll leave these 2 holes open so any excess oil can spew out of the holes here and any excess air and whatnot. Now, before I even put this cap on, I'll let all the bubbles escape from the differential case. I'll spin the differential a few times just to make sure that the small gears and crown gears don't have any bubbles trapped in between the gear teeth itself. Then once I've seen, taken a look at the gear differential and said, oh, all right, it's good to go. Time to snap the lid on and start to kind of like bleed out the differential. Like I said, just tighten these 2 screws, let the oil, spew out of the holes here. And then when you feel like you're at the very end, you can put a screw down in here and you might see some more oil come out of there. Screw that one, put a screw there, start screwing that down. And then what you want to do is back out all the screws at the same time. And then what you want to do is in a cross pattern, do it equally, cross across until that differential is nice and snug. All right. You don't want to just go like You want to do nice X patterns so it goes down nice and evenly. Okay, and you'll probably see some oil come out of all the screw holes because you're doing it in a nice even pattern. All right, I hope that was of help. I've done quite a good job with the differentials here, really smooth. And building a differential and building it properly is very important to the car's overall handling. Okay, hope this was help. Bye-bye.